A few quick announcements before we get stuck into the episode proper. It's been a big week for us. Firstly, the podcast was selected by the judges as a finalist in the 2019 Australian Podcast Awards in the business and marketing category.
So there was 6 announced, so we're somewhere lurking in the top 6. Hopefully we land at number 1. If you all want to help us, you can definitely by leaving us a review of the podcast on your platform of choice. I think there's a 3-star lurking in there somewhere recently. We need to bump that way down and have a whole bunch of 5s. Yeah. So absolutely love it if you all can leave us a review. It really means a lot on that one.
Yeah, we love hearing the reviews at any time, but at this time specifically, the winner is announced in the middle of May. So as you said, mate, we're top 6, which was a great honour, and looking forward to the awards night. And a second announcement on a personal note for you, mate. You were named the 2019 Future Green Leader.
Yeah, very exciting for me. So I was selected as the Future Green Leader of the Year with the Green Building Council of Australia. So they're trying to get to our built environment to zero emissions by 2030. So the idea for me anyway was operational energy is decreasing at a very fast rate as the cost of renewable energy is decreasing. So the focus is going increasingly toward embodied carbon, which is to do with structural materials. So I'm a structural engineer, and I think there's a lot of potential in structural engineering solutions, say like timber and supplementary cementitious materials and things like this. So that was roughly my general spiel. Landed it, so very excited to be doing stuff with the Green Building Council this year. And mate, you're working with your idol at the moment, Seth Godin. How'd you land working with him?
That's it. So Seth's is been moving into the online course space, the online workshop space, and he's doing a thing called the Podcast Fellowship. And so I'm one of the 3 coaches for the Podcast Fellowship. Obviously, if anyone's listened to any episodes for any amount of time, then they know that Seth's my number 1 idol. So it's been phenomenal to be working with him in that program. Obviously, for us, podcasting has been a big shift over the last 3 years or so. Anyone wanting to start a podcast has been doing that course, so I've been able to help those people out.
Yeah, and podcasts have been a big part of our life. If anyone's interested in learning podcasts, you can do the Seth Godin Elite Podcast Fellowship, but also you've got a little podcast sitting there on Udemy as well, and it's ticking over pretty well.
I made it two years ago, which I probably went early because I didn't really know that much. We're only 6 months in, and it sat there making no money, but just the last 3 months it's spiked out of nowhere. So I need to go back and update it.
It's Black Swan. But yeah,
Black Swan.
Check it out if anyone's interested in podcasts, and you can, I'm sure they've got your email to reach you direct if they want some advice.
I love it.
All right, we'll get into it.
Big Cal. Welcome back to What You Will Learn. My name is Adam Ashton.
And my name is Adam Jones. Today we are reviewing Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, Choosing a Focused Life in a Noisy World.
Mate, this is a good eye-opening idea about how much we're addicted to technology and everything digital these days, and a bit of a eye-opener as to maybe we shouldn't be so addicted.
So we're going to take you through a little journey through his other 2 books, So Good They Can't Ignore You, into deep work, into digital minimalism, because they all are related into how social media is really having a huge cost on our lives and especially in our careers.
They tie together very well, and if you want to listen to those full episodes, you can go back and search for those. But as a bit of context, So Good They Can't Ignore You started off with the idea that, people say, find a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life, or, follow your passion or follow your dreams, or if you just find your passion, then you'll love what you do and everything will be fine. But this book really went into the ideas that probably isn't the best suggestion for a good career.
So that's the passion hypothesis. It says that the key to finding occupational happiness is to first figure out what you're passionate about. Don't settle until you find what your passion is, and then find a job that matches that, and then all this money and love for your job and all these kind of things will follow. But as you said, this is flawed for a few reasons. First of all, he says that passion is rare, and he's got a study to back this up. It was a survey of a bunch of Canadian students about, what are all your passions out there? And they found that the top 5 were dance, hockey, skiing, reading, and swimming. Though dear to everyone's hearts what their passions were, none of them really aligned with actually a job where you can actually learn something or you can actually earn something. So only less than 4% of all the passions they listed you could actually make a living out of.
Yeah, so it's that idea that, we don't have we don't all know what our innate underlying passion is, and it's just ready to find a job there. Another one is that passion takes time. And they found that they did a survey of nurses, actually, and that the nurses who had been nursing for 30 years enjoyed their job a lot more than the nurses who were, first and second year out. So that they found that over time, the more they did it, the more they improved at it, the more they enjoyed it. It became a passion rather than being a passion from the very start.
If you think about those following their passion, just quitting their job, if you follow your passion, just quit your job straight away, you're not going to be there long enough to actually get competence, so then you can actually get the fruits of passion. The third one was the passion is the side effect of mastery. And if you think back to Dan Pink's book, what are the 3 things that make up an incredible job that's fulfilling? It's autonomy, the idea that you can wake up, you can control your time, do what you want to do. I'm not going into work today, I'm going surfing, I'll do the work later. Or competence, meaning you're great at what you do. And also purpose, the idea that you're doing something meaningful and contributing to something bigger than yourself.
And so that's the idea that, passion is not just this thing that we can objectively cling to, that we've all got this passion and then we go and find a job that matches it. So that idea that just follow your passion is bad advice. He goes a step further to say it's not just bad advice, it's actually dangerous advice, because if you go out there and quit your job and follow your passion, and either it turns out it wasn't your passion, or it turns out that there's no way to make a living out of that passion, you just end up being Johnny on your mum's couch eating 2-minute noodles, because that is dangerous advice.
Successful people might say, look, like Steve Jobs said this, you got to just follow what you're passionate about. But if you look at it through the lens of, say, survivorship bias, there are a lot of people out there who follow their passion who actually don't make the success like Steve Jobs does, and you never hear from them. So you're only hearing about a very select minor few who narrates their past as if they were following passion, but in reality, they actually followed what Cal Newport suggests is the craftsman mindset to actually get good at what they do, and then passion was a side effect of this.
Yeah, he says that if Steve Jobs just followed his passion at the start, he probably would have been rocking out in India, doing a lot of yoga.
Well, he was interested in Eastern mysticism and Western history and magic mushies and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it wasn't that later on, when he looked back after a long career, a long successful career, that then he said, follow your passion, which is not necessarily what he set out to do. So the next thing he says that, you need to focus on skill. So rather than the passion mindset of focusing on what the world can offer you and what, matching up your passion with a job, he says instead take the craftsman mindset, which is focusing on what you can offer the world and developing your skills and your competence. Get good at what you do first, rather than thinking, I'm passionate, this is what I definitely want to do.
What we said earlier, the elements of good work are creativity, impact, and control. So these things are rare and valuable in a lot of jobs. So if you want to go out and get these rare and valuable things, you need to be able to give something rare and valuable in return. So this is what he calls career capital, the skills that are rare and valuable that give you leverage to actually go after these things or make a good career.
It's like an economic transaction. If you want those things, creativity, impact, control, they're rare and valuable things. You can't just give something simple and expect that in return. In order to get something rare and valuable, you need to give something rare and valuable. So he says that career capital, it really comes down to, first and foremost, getting really good at what you do, building those skills, and as the title suggests, becoming so good they can't ignore you. If you focus on building skills first and developing that capital, then you can later trade it in for creativity, impact, control.
All right, so the key to getting that career capital before you trade it into the real things that give you a good career is the idea of skill development. And to actually develop skills, you need to deploy the idea of deliberate practice. And this is where you need to go down deep and dirty into something to learn it properly. Not necessarily dirty.
But deep, definitely deep.
Some things you can, I guess. But then this is where it ties into his second book, which we'll bridge into now, which is Deep Work.
Yeah, as you said, that we want to be developing important skills, and he distinguishes 2 types of work as shallow work versus deep work. Shallow work is the non-cognitively demanding stuff, like any logistical tasks. Often they're the things that don't take a lot of concentration or effort. You have to do them in many cases. They're things that you can do while you're distracted, though. And really, whilst a lot of the times they have to be done, they're not really creating any value, and they're not adding value to yourself in terms of that skill development element.
So as the name suggests, shallow, light, you're not really having to really use much of your brain or to wrap your brain around much of a subject. So you're just pushing out shitty little emails and stuff. Opposite to that is the deep work, which he defines as professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push your cognitive capacities to the limit. So these efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. So in this, you're got no one distracting you. You're in an area by yourself for 2 to 3 hours. You're wrapping your brain around a really difficult task. And in that task, if it's just beyond your capacities, you're really pushing yourself and growing in competence to the challenge of what that task presents. And the only way to do that is through deep work. And if you keep doing that, that means over time you're actually going to be developing new skills and you're growing more cognitively, and you're going to end up with rare and valuable skills, like we were saying before.
Yeah, he says that deep work is a factor of two things. It's time spent multiplied by intensity of focus. So it's not just going out and spending a lot of time. It also has to be highly focused. So as you said, not distracted. You're really deliberately practicing, deliberately working on tasks that will become increasingly valuable over time. And so it's sort of like what we said. So the first book is saying passion is bad. Instead of following your passion, first work on your skills. And so his second book is saying, okay, now to work on your skills, go deep. Deep work, less distractions. And so at the same time that deep work is becoming increasingly valuable, it's also becoming increasingly rare, because the world around us, companies and businesses that we work for, are pushing towards everybody being constantly connected, always reachable, open plan offices. People just come up and tap you on the shoulder and ask you for something. So all these distractions are reducing our intensity of focus of deep work.
It's almost like a badge of honor for some people, I think, when you send them an email and then they reply 3 minutes later. They see, a lot of people see that as a badge of honor, but it's obvious that, their whole working day, they're probably in this state of shallow work where they're sitting in front of that inbox, and as soon as the inbox comes, they just shoot one back like a ping pong ball. And what you just said there, so this is things like that are becoming more valuable, open plan offices where you can get distracted all day. But at the same time, we need to actually have the modern economy requires us to actually have these skills where you need to actually go deep in the first place. So for those who go towards deep and can prioritize depth, they're going to be increasingly rewarded.
And so you might think that you're doing your deep work, you're working really hard for 3 hours on a project, and it won't hurt if you just check the email, quick 30-second response, and then you're back into your deep work. But there's this thing called attention residue. So even just that quick switching of tasks, you're really pulling yourself out of that focused deep work. And it really does take, that extra 5, 10, 15 minutes that your brain is still in the background thinking about the email rather than focusing. So you really, every time even you think it's a quick check, you've really pulled yourself out of that deep work, and it takes a lot more time to get back into it. And that's where you're sort of tying into this brand new book, Digital Minimalism, how everything digital and connected has taken over. And it's really detracted from us being able to do deep work, which means we can't develop skills, which means we can't trade it in and build our career capital.
If you think about the concept of attention residue, the thing that's probably going to take away the most from your attention residue is this idea of this constant static, that you got this thing in your pocket, pulling your attention up to 100 times a day for some people, hours and hours of each single day. This thing's pulling your attention. So, we're losing control of our cognitive abilities and where we direct our cognitive attention to. So this is where minimalism comes into it. It's taking control back over your life, really, away from these digital devices.
Yeah, one thing to set up this idea of digital minimalism was a study, I believe, in an interview we did with Jay Papasan, the author of The One Thing. He talked about a similar sort of study.
The Big Papa man.
where there was people doing an IQ test, and there was 3 distinct groups. One was just regular doing an IQ test. One, they had people's phones off to the side, and they'd send them notifications, and the phone would buzz. But they didn't get to check it. They were still doing their work, but the phone was buzzing in the background every so often. And then the third group was high on marijuana. And it turns out the people that were distracted just by the idea that someone's trying to get in contact with me, someone's trying to message me, I just got a notification, I just got a like, they actually performed far worse than the people who are high on marijuana. So it's obviously this idea that this digital connected, what are people saying about me online behind my back that I need to check and always need to be aware of is definitely detracting from our work.
So you're better off smoking joints rather than having an iPhone. That's the moral of the story, that one.
Probably the best thing is neither. Yeah, but
if you got a choice, go for the
it's
joint.
A binary,
So, for a lot of us, we all understand the benefits of the internet. Like, we love our Google Maps. We don't want to abandon Instagram. But we don't really look at some of these negative impacts that it has on our lives, and these are coming increasingly important. So Big Cal, he does shine a light on these negative things, and he says it's kind of like a lopsided arm race, like more like a David versus Goliath kind of battle we're going on through for attention, and we're not even aware that this war is going on.
He says that, whilst our primitive brains, where we are inherently, we have a need for social approval and to connect and be part of the tribe, because that's how we survived when we were, hundreds of thousands of years ago. The bigger our tribe was, the more protection and the more food and etc. So we have these underlying need to have this social approval, and the social media companies prey on that. They know that we need this social approval, so they'll give us a little notification, they'll give us a little like, they'll give us a little buzz in the pocket, and as Cal said, it's a lopsided arms race. We've got no chance against them.
So when Facebook started out, if you think about when you downloaded Facebook, for a lot of people, what was 2007, 2008, so about 10 years ago, I guess you probably never thought that you'd actually be spending 2 hours a single day on it. When you first downloaded it, you thought, I thought it'd be interesting to see, Joe or Diana's boyfriend relationship status or whatever. But today, it's really taken a big chunk out of your life. Or also, when you first got your iPhone in, say, 2007, you thought that the music features were pretty cool, but you'd never be thinking that you'd actually check it 85 times a day, which is what the average person checks it. So it's kind of for small reasons you take your first footsteps in taking these devices and downloading your social platforms, but slowly, it takes a big chunk out of your life.
Yeah, and a little bit into the more conspiracy realm is that Cal said that at the time when Facebook was approaching their IPO, they needed people to spend more time on the platform because that's how they made money from ads and so on. So they wanted to bump up their revenues to IPO to get a higher valuation. In order to bump up their revenues, they need to bump up the amount of time people spent on there. And that's where they were able to use some of these manipulative techniques, playing on our psychology, to hook people in to keep them there longer. We both love a bit of conspiracy. I reckon he's bang on there.
Yeah, it's come up a few times, right? And this is a bit of a side note, but corporations, they're obliged to do what's best for the shareholders, not what's best for you or the social good or the planet or anything. They're all about quarterly earnings per share a lot of the time, and they're obligated to earn profit and not improve the social good.
Yeah, so Bill Maher, who we neither of us probably know too much about, but he's very popular in the US. He went on one of his rants in 2012 saying that the tycoons of social media, they have to stop pretending they're friendly nerds who are, just building a better world for everybody, and admit that they're tobacco farmers in T-shirts selling addictive product to children. So he's saying that they're just as bad as tobacco, and possibly even worse, because, Philip Morris, they just want your lungs, but Facebook and Twitter, they want your soul.
So yeah, they're not out for the social good of the world. There was actually a Google engineer, Trishan Harris, who calls it a slot machine. So every time I check my phone, I'm playing this slot machine to see what you get. So, they've got actually the same people who program slot machines and the psychologists in the same groups at Facebook. If you look at the definition of addiction, it's the condition in which a person engages in the use of a substance or behavior for which the rewarding effects provide compelling incentive to repeatedly pursue the behavior despite detrimental consequences. So until only recently, this was kind of thought of only left for alcohol or drugs, but now it's really obvious that it's actually behavioral addiction from tech companies as well.
Yeah, if you feel like you're constantly pulling your phone out and you can't help it and you're just checking those notifications, that is approaching addiction level, similar to someone smoking or drinking who is chemically addicted. Our behavior is an addiction. And one of the things that they use, as you said, they're harnessing the ideas of, the Vegas pokie machines, and they're playing psychology to use it against us. One of the things is using random rewards. So there was a test about pigeons where if they peck a button, they get a food pellet. And if they do it every single time, that was one group. The second group was sometimes they'd get nothing, and sometimes if they peck the button, they might get 3 or 4 things. So it was random rewards in that they never knew when their payoff was going to come. And the pigeons in the random rewards, as opposed to the consistent 1 pellet every time, peck that button a shitload more. So it's saying that, if sometimes we open up, there's no notifications. Sometimes we open up and we've got 30 likes.
Yeah.
That random rewards of what may or may not come, that's what sucks us in and gets us addicted.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Every time I go on your Facebook or your LinkedIn or you look at it, the first thing is to look at the notifications. And there is, like, if you're honest to yourself, there is this little bit of dopamine that gets released and it feels good for this instant second. And it is likened, it could be quite similar to that hit of cocaine.
Even Sean Parker, who was obviously one of the very, very, very early members of Facebook, if you've watched The Social Network, the Justin Timberlake character, he even said that their thought process when they were building this platform up, their intention was to, how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible? So he's even stated that this was the goal of Facebook in particular, and I'm sure all of the social media, is to actually suck us into the vortex of social media. And so that's what they were working towards, and they've certainly achieved that.
So yeah, we got these for minor reasons, but right now it's taking control of our lives. And you use the metaphor of Plato's chariot, and it's the idea that our soul can be understood as a chariot driver struggling to rein 2 horses. So one horse is our better nature and the other is our basic impulses of our evolution. So when we increasingly give up our autonomy to the digital and we let Facebook and Instagram and all the social media tycoons control our basic impulses, that means we're being rung by the wrong horse, really. And the horse with our better nature, when we want to actually be a productive citizen of the world, has got less power and less control compared to the other rampant, raging, fucking wild horse. It's really starting to increasingly take control of all over our lives. Like for you, man, how much on your iPhone now it has your screen time? Like, it's ridiculous. Yeah,
it's high. It's embarrassingly high.
Extremely embarrassing.
If you check your new settings on the iPhone, they've got the screen time app where you can see how long per day. I don't know if it says how many times you check. I think it probably does. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, but I know the average,
it's 83, for the average.
Yeah. There was a book called Irresistible by Adam Alter, which Cal references a lot. And he was doing a test, I guess, to try to work out why these phones are irresistible. And the first phase of his test was to work out how often he checked it. So he downloaded a similar app, and he thought, I'll probably check it 10 times a day, and all up, I'm probably on my phone for 15 minutes. And he was horrified to find out that he was 70 plus checks per day and over an hour per day. And he was well below average. As he said, it's 83 times per day that we're opening up our phone to check it. That's a shitload, man. That's a shitload.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So good news is Newport suggests at the end of the book, or the whole point of the book really, is the solution, which is digital minimalism. And to define it, he says, it's a philosophy of technology use in which you focus your online time on a small number of carefully selected and optimized activities that strongly support the things that you value and then happily miss out on everything else.
Yeah, so this idea of digital minimalism, it's not just digital ignorism or something like that. It's not full digital is bad, completely cut it out of your life, because there are significant benefits to using the internet, using everything digital that can enhance all areas of your life. But he's saying that we need to be very conscious and very specific and very careful about what we choose, how we use it, and why we use it.
It's being extremely conscious in performing a cost-benefit analysis of every individual platform, like understanding what are the costs of Instagram and what is the benefit. There might be someone out there who owns a bakery or something, and there's a huge benefit in having Instagram. But at the same time, Facebook might serve no purpose for them. So it's each individual person has different utility in every single different device.
And one key part of this, he says, is that there's the any benefit approach or the best use approach. So the any benefit approach might be, you think, okay, I use Instagram, I can check because I'm able to see what my friends are doing. And so that might be a benefit. Or you might say that you use Facebook because you can keep aware of, there's an event coming up, someone invites you, so you're not going to miss someone's birthday. That's an any benefit approach, saying, okay, there's one single benefit of using Facebook, so I'm going to use Facebook. Or there's one single benefit of using Instagram, so I'm going to use Instagram. But that's the any benefit approach, which means you can pretty much use everything because there's going to be some benefit to it. And that's not looking at the costs. Whereas the best use approach would be thinking, okay, if I need to be aware of events that are coming up, or if I need to see what my friends are doing, or if I need to message people, what's the best way to do that? So not thinking about, is there a benefit to this? What's the best way that I can achieve this? And if you think of it that way, you're going to have significantly less, accounts on different, significantly less profiles, significantly less apps, and you're going to only focus on the best way to achieve your desired outcome.
Yeah, that's it. So you got to think, is this technology the best use to support this value and the best way of doing what the actual thing I'm trying to do? And if the answer is no, then you're better to use the better option. So you need to work back towards deep values in your technological choices. And what you end up doing if you do this all successfully, you transform these innovations from a source of distraction that really subtracts huge value for your life. If you think about the concept of developing career capital, and then it goes in toward technologies that support a life well lived.
So if you sold at this point, obviously that if you need to develop skills and career capital, and to do that you need to do deep work. To do that you need to reduce distraction. To do that we need to try and become a digital minimalist.
And the other benefits as well of digital minimalism is just living a better life. But
yeah, he says it's not only work, but this book in particular, more than the other two, is also just about our personal relationships as well. Obviously, if you're you go to watch your kid's soccer game, but you're on your emails the whole time, or if you're sitting down to for a wine and movie with your partner, and then you're checking Instagram the whole time. There are definitely big negative implications of being so digital. So it's not just a work thing, but also a personal thing that we need to cut back on all of our digital connection. And so one thing he suggests is a digital declutter, which is probably an extreme way to do it. But sometimes if you need to make a big change, you need to make an extreme change.
Gradual changing habits doesn't work very well for a lot of things, and especially this. So the first thing you need to do, it's a 3-step process. You need to put aside a 30-day period where you'll take a break from optional technologies in your life. So, what's the date today? It's March. For those who are game, do it for all of April.
That's ballsy. So put aside 30 days, as he says, removing optional technologies. Obviously, if you're working in an office and you've got to be on your computer to do work and you got to be on emails, you can't just tell your boss, I'm going to have 30 days of no computer time. I'm going to just use a pen and paper for the next 30 days. It's the optional things. It's the things on, your social media. Maybe you take 30 days off. If it's your phone and you play games on your phone on the train, take 30 days off.
All right, so after the 30 days, you've really emptied all of the unnecessary social media out of your life. So the third step, you need to reintroduce the optional technologies into your life. So rather than just bringing them back in willy-nilly like you got them in at the very start, you need to actually do that cost-benefit analysis now and consciously choose which ones are going to add value to the way you live. Yeah,
rather than just thinking, okay, it's like a bit of a detox, rather than thinking, okay, I'm going to have a 30-day sugar detox, and then on the first day on day 31, you're just back on the burgers and milkshakes. It's probably not the best way to do it. So the same goes with this. If you, take 30 days off social media and games, and then on day 31, you're just back on it, that's the wrong way to do it. He says we need to consciously decide what we put back into our lives. And not only what we put back into our lives, but define rules about why we can use it, when we can use it, how we can use it. So for example, if you do decide, okay, Facebook is important to me for reasons A, B, and C, you don't put the app back on your phone. Maybe it's that you say, okay, on Tuesday night and Friday night each week at 6:30, I'm going to go on my laptop only and check for 20 minutes my notifications or reply to friends and send messages and stuff. So defining very clear rules, not only what you're allowed to use, but how and when you can use them.
Defining rules and also setting yourself up for systems, because if you just let that, going back to that analogy of that horse run wild, which is your subconscious impulses, then you're probably in a losing battle. So just setting yourself up to win. One thing which I'm about to do is just let my girlfriend have my password for Facebook, just so, you know, I have to do that extra step of asking her to log me in first before I can check the notification. So, you know, little things like that, you're gonna win the battle.
Yeah, that is one thing that obviously the easier it is to do something, then you're going to do it. If you build as many barriers into it as possible, like rather than having the app on your phone that's always logged in, if you don't have the app on your phone and you don't have the password automatically saved and you have to physically go and find that password and put it in each time, it's just extra barriers that every time you're going to stop and think, is this the best use of my time right now?
Yeah, another one would be, you know, things like do not disturb. You can have your phone on all the time. So in the book, he's actually got a whole bunch of little things like that you can deploy. So it's one of those books, if you can just take 3 or 4 or 5 points, it's fantastic. But if you actually do this full digital declutter, then it's going to offer huge value for you.
So that's the digital minimalism. As you say, mate, if you do the full 30-day declutter, that's great. Even if you just do one thing, whether it's you turn off all your notifications, that's a big step in the right direction as well. And so that's big Cal Newport, the third book of his we've done. And in a couple of days, we've got our interview coming up with Cal Newport, which should be phenomenal.
Looking forward to that one. He's a beast. We've been trying to get him for a while, actually.
We have. He's a digital minimalist, mate. He's tough to track down.